In today's Leeds news, Academy sign Welsh youth, details on the fifth round FA Cup clash, Elland Road's New York High Line, Farke support on Buonanotte, Postecoglou influenced by Leeds' grace, Valencia's stance on Ramazani, and interest building on Joe Gellhardt. Morning, folks. Welcome to the Leeds View for Friday, the 20th of February, with your Leeds United news. Hope you're all having a really good week so far. Getting ready for the game tomorrow against Aston Villa. Great chance for Leeds to try and pick up a point on the road, at least. Fingers crossed, all going well in what will be a very competitive weekend for the clubs that are down there around us in the Premier League. So we'll see how Leeds get on. The podcast from last night is available. We had a look at the Academy stars that are coming through the ranks and a bit of a chat about Leeds Scout Network. You can check that out if you want. If you're not into the transfer news that we cover on the channel, and you want more detail on what's going on behind the scenes at the club, it is worth checking out. But we got a bit of news to get stuck into today. We'll start off with the Leeds United Academy making a signing. The Leeds Academy have stayed pretty busy since the January transfer window has closed and have continued to add more players to the rank. And today there is reports the Leeds have signed yet another youth who will join up with the Academy sides at the end of this year. According to Talent Hunter, they claim that Leeds United have signed Manchester United's right back cum central midfielder Alfie Walker, who is also a Welsh international at underage level. Walker has been part of the Manchester United Youth Academy since the age of 9, and he did play for Leeds already this season in a game against Liverpool, where he did manage to find the score sheet. Alfie has been capped by Wales at under 18 and under 21 level, which tells you there was a talented enough player in there at 16 years of age being capped at under 21 level for the Welsh national side. But he, as I say, he did play for Leeds already this season, so he got a chance to impress. And he is said, according to Talent Hunter, to have signed a deal at Leeds United, but will stay at Manchester United until the end of this season and will then join up with the Leeds United Academy. Leeds have had some success in this kind of approach to the Academy in the last couple of months. They brought in Jayden Lenu from Manchester City in the summer, who's been a fantastic addition to Leeds United's under-21s at left back, as well as Lewis and Aaron Marcus, who came in from Liverpool, and Leonard Njenje, who was recently signed up from Nigeria. So plenty of players coming in there. They've added more depth to that squad after losing some players to other Premier League sides last summer. And we covered some of these, as I say, last night on the podcast with Jerry McDermott. You can check that out if you want to and keep an eye on what's going on with the Leeds United Academy players at the club. Let's move on. Let's talk about the FA Cup. As we know, Leeds United got a home draw finally in the next round of the FA Cup and will face Daniel Farke's former side, Norwich, with some details on that game have now started to come out. The game will take place on Sunday, the 8th of March, and it's going to be a 4:30 p.m. kickoff at Elland Road. The game will be televised on TNT Sports, and Discovery Plus cameras will be there too. Tickets are available for the game. You can check them out at leedsunited.com if you plan on heading to the game. Great opportunity for Leeds United to potentially get into the quarterfinals, and that elusive Leeds United FA Cup run could be maybe, possibly, on the horizon if we can get past Norwich City, which at Elland Road, you'd imagine we have a great chance. Let's talk about Elland Road's New York skyline. As we know, work is underway as part of the Leeds redevelopment of Elland Road and the surrounding area, and the project is set to be generating about £29 million of additional revenue to the local Leeds economy. The plan isn't just, though, to improve and expand the stadium of Elland Road. It's also to improve and expand the surrounding area and make it far more of a hub for not just Leeds fans, but for people in the area in general. And according to the Daily Mail, Leeds plan to try and recreate Manhattan's famous High Line that is visible in New York as part of this development. The report claims there are plans to develop a sky park that will connect the Leeds city centre to Elland Road via the Holbeck Viaduct. So what is the New York High Line, and why should anyone care about this? Well, it's a 1.4 mile long elevated linear park, greenway and rail track, and it's used as a major tourist attraction in New York in the United States. It's also used as a way to get to places outside of trying to avoid the traffic that is in that city. The Mail say that significant funding is already in place for this development in West Yorkshire, and they claim that the aim is to resemble Wembley Way for thousands of fans to walk to and from the game each week. The development is said to be on a scale that would provide South Leeds with a much stronger connection to the city centre and economy, and the planning application is expected to go in for this pretty soon. It's pretty ambitious one to try and get done. And there's a lot of talk about the light rail system or tram system to go up to Elland Road, and that's going to cost, I think, about £4 billion, they're saying. Something crazy like that, and that might take a lot longer to get off the ground. Something like this might be a nice idea. It's not a bad walk from Leeds City Centre to Elland Road. If if you had something that was a bit easier to get there and had some cafes and restaurants and bars along the way, might not be a bad idea. Let's move on. Let's talk about Daniel Farke's support for Facundo Buonanotte. Safe to say that Facundo Buonanotte's full debut for Leeds United didn't really excite that many people. He looked a little bit off it. He was a bit sloppy in possession. The pace of the game seemed to be getting away from him a little bit. I did think he was starting to come into the game just before half-time, before he was taken off. And Daniel Farke did confirm that the plan was only ever to play him in 45 minutes of the match in order to try and just build up his fitness for a player who hasn't played a huge amount of football this season. Farke was quick, though, to defend Buonanotte in yesterday's press conference and said that Leeds kind of expected this to happen and that we shouldn't be judging the player on just one performance because he won't be judging him on just one performance. Farke also pointed out that the parent club Brighton currently sit just one place above Leeds and 1 point above Leeds United, and that their players aren't just going to simply walk in to the starting 11 in Leeds United side, that they have to work harder for it, and the players in the sides are pretty much right now, well, according to the league table, on the same level. Farke did say this: "You can't just arrive and deliver straight away. I wouldn't overinterpret one game. We didn't sign him to improve the starting 11, but to improve the depth of the squad. We allowed Jack Harrison and Harry Gray to go out, and we needed to add more depth. We can give him the opportunity, the spotlight and the support. We didn't expect him to cut the league into pieces, and we speak honestly to Facundo." Farke said that he has had honest conversations with Facundo Buonanotte, and he's basically told him to keep the head down, work hard, and the next time he gets his opportunity, to do better on it. But he said that he does have their support. They do believe there's a very good player there, a talented player there, and he's got a very good character. So I don't think we've seen the end of Facundo Buonanotte. But Farke did also point out that it's pretty much a low-risk signing if he manages to deliver between now and the end of the season. He's been a fantastic signing for the club. And if he doesn't, it's low risk, and it's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen. It would be nice if he did make an impact, because we could do with every player making an impact between now and the end of the season. But great to see the manager giving the players some support after what was a difficult enough game against Birmingham City. But there was glimpses, and there has been glimpses of a decent player there, and we've seen before what he can do with Leicester City. But they've pointed to the fact that he hasn't played a lot of football, and you have to expect this and match your expectations to that level. And maybe we over-expect, our expectations are higher than reality should be for players that are coming at this point of the season. Let's move on. Let's talk about Ange Postecoglou and Leeds. Strange one this, but it popped up yesterday. Thought it was interesting and worth having a chat about. It is connected to Leeds in one way, shape or form. But Ange Postecoglou is currently doing the podcast run, and he had a very good and honest conversation with the Overlap recently. If you're into managers talking open and honestly about football, you should definitely go and check it out. It's an interesting chat that he had, and he was speaking about his time at Spurs and Nottingham Forest, the latter of which he said he completely regrets that move and should have listened to everybody who told him to stay away from it, but that's completely on him. But while he was speaking to the Stick to Football podcast, he managed to bring up Leeds United into the conversation and talk about the influence that some of the Leeds United greats, as well as other clubs, had on his style of football. When he watched the Leeds United brilliance of the 1970s, Postecoglou said his father Jim was a huge influence on him and made him watch Leeds United games and players, and that has influenced his approach to football since then. He said the following: "Whenever you start talking that way, people say the proper way to play football. There's no right or wrong way, but I do love the joy of goals and attacking football because that's my father's influence. In the 70s, he'd get me up and we'd watch Liverpool, and he loved Leeds United because they had Eddie Gray and Peter Lorimer. He loved Johan Cruyff and the Dutch side of the 1974 World Cup, and all of those things have influenced me as a manager." Ange Postecoglou showing that he's another person who has been on the receiving end of a father having Leeds United influence on him as a young person. There's lots of us that fall into that bracket. As they say, you're a Leeds fan if you're from Leeds or if your dad supported the club at some point. So that's where my allegiances to Leeds come from, my dad. So a lot of people are the same. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Look, I'm obviously have a soft spot for Celtic, so I quite like Ange Postecoglou. Not everyone's cup of tea. I quite like honest, open managers. But yeah, he might have to reassess his attacking focus and try and get some defensive-minded players and style into his football if he's going to be a success in the Premier League in the future, if he does get a job there. Let's move on, talk about Larry Ramazani's future at Valencia. Leeds on loan winger Larry Ramazani has seen an upturn in his form in recent weeks at Valencia. He started his first game of the season and scored an absolute worldie of a goal in their last game out. But his future at Valencia may not have the potential that he's shown in the last couple of weeks. Leeds didn't include an option to buy in the loans of the likes of Ramazani, Gellhardt and Matteo Joseph. Leeds believed in the summer that these players could go out, have very successful loans and increase their market value. And Leeds going into next year will likely be looking to sell on some players as they try and upweight the squad for hopefully another season in the Premier League. And that appears to be what's worked out for Joe Gellhardt. His value seems to be going up. There's lots of clubs interested in him. We'll get to him in a minute. But not so much the case for Mateo Joseph and largely Ramazani. According to El Demarque in Spain, Valencia are unlikely to look at bringing Ramazani back next season on a loan, and any chance of a permanent deal would need serious renegotiation or a completely different approach to get a future deal done. It's taken until February 15th for Ramazani to make his full Valencia debut, and he has played well in that game, and he has played well off the bench in recent weeks. But Valencia's current league position means they might not have the funds in place to try and get any kind of a permanent deal done for largely Ramazani. Now, El Demarque claimed that Ramazani will return to Leeds United in the summer, and if Leeds United do plan on selling some players and trying to cash in on Ramazani, then they will have to hope that the Belgian winger has more starts, more assists and more goals between now and the end of the season to attract more interest in him. He's got time. He's been decent the last few games, but it has been a long road. He had an injury that really slowed his season down, so hopefully more to come from Larry Ramazani, but it does look like he'll be coming back to Leeds, at least in the short term, this summer. Let's talk about Joe Gellhardt, though, on the other side of things. All the talk around Joe Gellhardt from Leeds over the last couple of months has been that the club always planned to sell him in the upcoming summer transfer window, and he has been attracting interest due to his form in the Championship this season. The performances that he has achieved so far this season will be exactly what Leeds would have wanted to see from a player out on loan, and he has drummed up a significant amount of interest from Championship clubs and clubs that are hoping to get into the Premier League. Hull City have made it clear that they plan to try and sign Joe Gellhardt on a permanent deal at the end of this season. They're very happy with him. The manager has a lot of affinity towards Joe Gellhardt, and he fits the style of play that they have right now. They need to wait for their transfer embargo to be lifted, which is expected to happen at the end of the season. At that point, they plan to make a move for Joffrey. But there is talk that there is significant interest around the Championship in Joe Gellhardt at this point. Middlesbrough are said to be one of the sides that are said to be keeping track of Joe Gellhardt. His style and the way he plays the game is said to fit in quite nicely with Kim Hellberg's approach at Middlesbrough. And if they can get promoted, they might look at Joe Gellhardt as somebody who can help them and can make the step up into the Premier League, given the performances he put in when he played under Marcelo Bielsa in a more attack-minded team at that point. If a promotion option doesn't materialise for Joffrey, then Norwich City and Philippe Clement are said to be very interested in bringing him in this summer, but he is involved in a playoff battle with Hull City right now, and you might view going to Norwich City next season as a little bit of a step backwards, and you might want to stay put. He does seem to like life at Hull City. He wanted very much to go back there this year and pushed for that move and told his agent that was the move that he wanted to get. But he's having a very good season. He's back from his injury now. He's finding his match sharpness again. He'll hope to re-find the form that he had in the first half of the season. He's in double digits for goals and assists this season combined. So if he can continue that into the second half of the season, he's on for a very strong year. Either way, it's likely to be a very busy summer for Joe Gellhardt. There is likely to be interest, and he is likely to move on. His contract is ticking down at the end of the season to be into the final 6 months of his current deal at the club, and Leeds will likely look to move him on. There will be plenty of Leeds players, if Leeds stay in the Premier League, that will need to move on this summer if Leeds have to bring in more money and to try and, as I said, upweight the quality of the squad that they've got right now. We all like Joe Gellhardt. There's a huge amount of people that have a fondness for Joe Gellhardt, not just him, Ramazani, and lots of players that helped Leeds get promoted during 2 different promotion campaigns. But the reality is Leeds are trying to maintain themselves as a Premier League established side and will need to try and bring in players of a higher level, and with PSR and SCR, Leeds try and bring in as much money as they possibly can. So players will go during the summer as well as players coming in. Anyway, folks, that'll be it for me today. No watch along this week. I'm at the Villa again myself. Keep an eye on the YouTube channel, though, for a match reaction at some point tomorrow evening. And we will have some form of a Sunday session out on Sunday for the members and available free to everybody on the audio platforms. You can check out last night's podcast with Jerry McDermott about the Academy. It's also available on all the audio platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and music as well. You can check it out there if you want. And if you want to give us a like and a subscribe on your way out the door, that would be very much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your day. Fingers crossed for points tomorrow at Villa Park. And I'll talk to you soon. See you later.